Welcome to my channel. Na huko new hapa mimi naitwa Uticast and me react to random videos on the internet, mostly religion, history, science, comedy, and thank you to my new subscribers. Na thank you. So yani mnasaidia sana, mnafanya nionekana hii channel inaweza grow into something and without wasting any time, moja tuende kwa video.
Hi, it's Katrina. My friend David is actually going to be helping me out today, so we can give you a little bit more variety. Everyone say hi!
Number 10. Nicolo Paganini. Nicolo Paganini played the violin with such divine skill that people believed he had sold his soul to the devil in exchange for his unprecedented talent. Nicolo was born in October of 1782 in Genoa, Italy, and from the very beginning he was a musical genius. He started playing the mandolin at 5 years old, took up the violin at 7, performed publicly at 11, and started doing solo tours at only 15 years old. Out of all the fantastic musicians that came out of the 19th century, Nicolo was without a doubt the best. Those who didn't believe he had sold his soul for his skills were convinced it was his mother who had done it for him. There were rumors that Nicolo's mom had made a pact with the devil, giving up her own soul when he was just a boy to ensure he would grow to be the best violin player in human history. This may be true, or Nicolo may have just been a legitimate prodigy. History tells us he studied with the famous violinist Alessandro Rolla at 13, but he soon ran out of things to teach the boy. Even at such a young age, Nicolo was so talented the best living artists couldn't keep up with him. However, talent doesn't always end in happiness. Shortly after Nicolo began performing as a teenager, he had a mental breakdown. He became a raging alcoholic, a womanizer, and a gambler. There are rumors that Nicolo went so insane he disemboweled a woman and used her intestines as violin strings. He also allegedly imprisoned a woman's soul inside of his instrument so that people could hear her screams when he played his violin in public. Number 9. John Fian and the Inquisitions.
Okay, so ndasema hivi, once you believe that success when equal to selling your soul. So maybe tu alikuwa tu mse alikuwa na talent ikafika kwa kichwa yake, hakuweza kuhandle hiyo pressure, so akaanza kudrink, lakini hatuwezi jua, we'll never know.
His violin in public. Number 9. John Fian and the Inquisitions. King James VI of Scotland was to be married to Princess Anne of Denmark in 1589. However, on her way to Scotland, she was delayed by raging storms. She and her company had to wait in Norway, and the unexpected tempest was quickly blamed on a group of malevolent witches. Supposedly, witches wanted to thwart the marriage, although there's never been any proof of that. Whatever the case, King James was irritated enough by his new wife's delay that in both Denmark and Scotland, witch hunts were carried out to finally rid the land of the demonic scourge. The worst inquisition that happened following the storm is known today as the North Berwick witch trials. King James himself supervised the trials and even participated in the torture. One of the alleged witches was a man named John Fian, ousted by another man named Gillis Duncan, who confessed to witchcraft after being brutally tortured. John was tortured to the point that he was nearly dead, but he never confessed to anything, not until a pair of pine needles were found underneath his tongue. These pine needles were supposedly part of a spell designed to prevent a witch from confessing their crimes when tortured. After the needles were removed, John allegedly confessed that he had sold his soul to the devil to gain supernatural powers. His main power was the ability to bewitch men and make them go insane. Interestingly, John also allegedly seduced a cow, which the townsfolk had seen following him around everywhere he went. For his terrible crimes, John Fian was sentenced to death after again being brutally tortured, of course. Number 8.
So back in the day, ni research history, utaona witch trials ilikuwa very common, na umenotice hizi confessions who happen after umekuwa tortured for a while. So either will continue kuwa tortured or confess. So if you believe it happen, ilikuwa tu upuze tu, yani alikuwa na need something kufanya tu, yani sijui ninasema, lakini ilikuwa wrong na a lot of people died over the years, na then ilikuwa true au kulikuwa na watu walikuwa na kuchukia, wanaenda wanasema ati so and so walikuwa na wakifanya something na ilikuwa probably false, walikuwa nataka tu anyone get rid of you. So yeah, so that's what I think.
Faustus. Jonathan Faustus was a German occultist in the 15th century, and the origin behind the phrase Faustian bargain. A Faustian bargain is another term for making a deal with the devil in exchange for one's soul. Jonathan was born in either 1466 or 1480 AD, nobody knows for sure. His first real appearance in the record books is in 1506 AD, when he was caught performing magic tricks and reading horoscopes in Geinhausen. Over the next 3 decades, similar records of Jonathan's exploits can be found all over Germany. He appeared as a physician, a doctor of philosophy, an astrologer, and frequently as an alchemist. He was almost always accused of fraud and chased out of town. The church denounced him publicly as a blasphemer, a heretic, and a man who had sold his soul to the devil. When Jonathan Faustus died in 1540 or 1541 AD, again it's uncertain, it was allegedly in an explosion due to an experiment gone wrong. His body was discovered horribly mutilated, and it was determined that Satan was behind it. The devil supposedly came to collect Jonathan's soul and ripped him apart. It's true that Jonathan was considered a man in league with Satan during his life. Most people suspected his strange knowledge of the occult was due to some kind of secret wisdom whispered in his ear by Satan himself. But it wasn't until over 100 years after his death that the writer Johann Spies wrote of Dr. Johann Faustin as striking a bargain with the devil, and from there the true legend of Faustus was born. He's been a staple figure in pop culture ever since. Number 7. Pope Sylvester II. Pope Sylvester II was born in the year 946 AD under the name Gerbert of Aurillac. He grew up to be a scholar in France and a teacher, then went on to serve as the Bishop of Rome and ruler of the Papal States from 999 AD up until his death in 1003 AD. He did a lot of good while he was in office, such as promoting the study of arithmetic and mathematics. He is credited for bringing the abacus back to Europe, as it had been lost for centuries since the Greco-Roman era, and also introduced the decimal numeral system. Then, in 996 AD, Pope Sylvester invented the first mechanical clock. However, there's something else that happened to Pope Sylvester that not many people know. According to legend, while he was studying astrology and mathematics in the Muslim city of Seville, he also began to study sorcery. He came into possession of a book of spells from an unknown Arab philosopher while in Spain. And it was around the same time as he was allegedly dabbling in magic that he met a female demon named Meridiana. Through his connection with the demon, he supposedly played a game of dice with the devil. He won the game, and Satan made sure that he won the papacy and went on to become the first French pope. Whether the devil really did make Gerbert the Pope is impossible to confirm. What we do know is that not a lot of people were happy with his ascension to the papacy. He tried to clean up the clergy by insisting only those who lived spotless lives could ever become bishops. In other words, only true holy men would be bishops in the church, regardless of position, influence, or wealth. This led to a great revolt against him, and Pope Sylvester II was chased out of Rome by the nobles, and when he tried to return to reclaim his throne, he was killed. Number 6.
So hiyo inaonekana ni story ilitengenezwa na watu walikuwa wanamchukia. So maybe alikuwa na go against their plans zao, so wakaona acha wa fake some story ili wamdiscredit. So yeah, that's what I think will happen. Probably didn't really happen.
The Devil's Book. In the mythology of the Puritans, it was believed a person could embark upon a covenant with Satan by signing their name with either ink or blood in something called the Devil's Book. It was only by signing a person's name in this diabolical book that they could gain demonic powers or become a practicing witch. No place in history has the Devil's Book been more important than the Salem witch trials. In the minds of the Puritans of Salem Village in the 1690s, there was only one real way to cement any kind of dealing with Satan. They believed that because Puritans had to sign the church membership log in order to make their covenant with God, Satanists and witches had to do the same thing. In March of 1692, when Abigail Williams took the stand in Salem, she accused local woman Rebecca Nurse of trying to force her into signing the Devil's Book so that she could join Rebecca's coven. And in April of that same year, when Mercy Lewis accused Giles Corey of witchcraft, she claimed Giles had appeared to her as a floating spirit and tried to convince her to sign the Devil's Book. The book was used as irrefutable proof of wizardry. If a man or woman was in possession of the book and a God-loving member of the community had witnessed it, obviously they were in league with the devil. Even though nobody truly saw the book, most people believed it was out there somewhere. When Giles Corey was interrogated and he refused to confess or deny the charges brought against him, he was killed by pressing. Rebecca Nurse was also executed and was hanged on July 19th, 1692. Number
Salem witch trials ni very infamous story ka hujaisikia before. Ndio utafute ina very interesting. Lakini basically when they accuse anyone, walikuwa very superstitious, so a lot of people died. Walikuwa mostly women. Hizo siku watu walikuwa nasema, mtu anaenda nasema ati you are a witch, unafika story pale alafu unakuwa trialed. Inatana ati unani obviously ukiwa tortured uta confess alafu bado utauliwa anyway. So ilikuwa a very interesting story in a bad way.
5. The Loudon Possessions. Urban Grandeur signed his name on a piece of paper when he made a pact with the devil in the 17th century. The paper was also allegedly signed by Leviathan, Astaroth, and a small assortment of other demons. It was used as evidence in the 1634 Loudon Possession trial in France. This was the first big scandal involving a demonic possession in France during that century. Urban, who was a parish priest at the time, was accused of making a deal with the devil, then allowing Satan into his body. The allegations came after a group of nuns stepped forward to claim Urban had been abusing them behind closed doors. To get him executed and away from them, the nuns claimed he was in cahoots with the devil. They said after he sold his soul, he allowed Satan to reside in his body so that it could taste earthly pleasures. Exorcisms were performed on the priest and others thought to be possessed, so often they became a tourist attraction. Witches were tortured during this time, including Urban himself. Then in August of 1634, when it was clear the devil wasn't going to be leaving his body, Urban was burned alive at the stake. Number 4.
Hadi kuende aje sidhani kuna deserve kuwa burned alive too. In like the worst way you can go.
Saymunder Frodi. Saymunder Frodi, aka Saymunder the Learned, was an Icelandic priest born in the year 1056 AD. He studied in France as a young man, returned to Iceland and founded a school at Oddi. He also wrote a long and very important history of Norwegian kings. The work is currently lost with no surviving copy, but it was used by authors who came after to help complete other works on the history of Norway. However, in Icelandic folklore, Saymunder is a much more interesting character. There are various stories about Saymunder using his superior craftiness to trick the devil into doing his dirty work for him. The most famous story involves Saymunder making a pact with the devil to carry him all the way from Europe to Iceland in the form of a seal. He mocked Satan and said he couldn't do it, which only made the demon want to prove him wrong. When the devil changed shape, he took the free ride to Iceland, then tricked him as they reached the shore. As soon as they arrived, just before they touched down on the ground, Saymunder hit the seal on the head with a Bible and then stepped ashore himself. It might not sound that clever to us in this day and age, but it was such a popular story in Iceland that it has survived all the way until now. Would you rather become the greatest and richest musician in the world, but never be allowed to fall in love, or be the most hated person on the planet with tons of money? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Number 3. The Speed Demon. In the 17th century, the Dutch Empire was quickly spreading across the world, and they had colonies on just about every major continent. Their most lucrative colony was Batavia, what's now known as Indonesia. Yet even though they had access to the best and most coveted spices in the world, their success was all about speed. The faster a captain could move product from one port to another, the more money there was to be made, and there was stiff competition from Portugal and England. The faster the captain, the richer the crew. At the beginning of the century, traveling from Indonesia to the Netherlands usually took about a year. But then came 1678, when the famous Captain Bernard Falk made the trip in less than 4 months. He had managed to sail across the whole length of Africa, across the Indian Ocean and home to Europe about 4 times faster than anyone else in the world could. He didn't have a special boat, the winds didn't treat him any differently. He simply sailed faster, as if by magic. This insanely fast trip was quick to spark rumors. People began whispering that Bernard Falk had made a deal with the devil. Only with the help of Satan was he able to become the fastest captain on the globe, becoming filthy rich. And in truth, even these days nobody has any clue how he managed to make such a fast journey, if not for the devil's help. Number 2.
4 months. Scale through the sea, kapita Africa. Nilikuwa impressive. Hadi I think nimingekuwa hizo era hadi ningefikiria the same thing. 4 months. 4 times faster. Ilikuwa very impressive.
2. Jonathan Moulton. Jonathan Moulton is a famous figure from New Hampshire's ancient history. In the 18th century, he rose through the political ranks as a bit of a weasel. He conned Governor Benning Wentworth into giving him a huge grant of land, a place currently called New Hampton. He also changed loyalties whenever it fit his cause. He guarded New Hampton in the Revolutionary War, then switched sides and supported the Continental Army during the Battle of Saratoga. He continued to be a powerful political leader who flip-flopped up until his death in 1787. These days, historians consider him the wealthiest man from Hampton, but very little is known about his life. He was supposedly the son of a cabinet maker and earned his immense fortune through buying and selling goods. He was also supposedly a treasure thief, pillaging shipwrecks on the New Hampshire coastline. However, there's a much darker theory surrounding Jonathan Moulton. After he died and was buried in an unmarked grave, people began spreading rumors that Jonathan had made a deal with the devil. He supposedly sold his soul for a boot filled with gold for every year of his life. Then when he was dead, Satan supposedly stole his corpse from his grave and left a boot filled with gold in his place. Number 1. Gilda Ray. Gilda Ray was one of the worst serial killers in history. However, he fought alongside Joan of Arc in the 15th century as a prestigious nobleman. He dedicated his entire life to defending France from England and fought to the bitter end until France was victorious in the 100 Years' War. After he was done being a hero with Joan of Arc, Gilda Ray was convicted by a court in Nantes for murdering 150 children in satanic occult rituals. He was busted in 1440 after he abducted a priest, and the local church authorities grew suspicious. He was such a horrific figure that after he was hanged and burned in 1440 after a 5-day trial, he became the inspiration for the French folk tale of Bluebeard. The problem for Gilda Ray was that after he retired from military service, he started squandering his fortune. He made a bunch of bad investments, he had a gluttonous lifestyle, and he went broke. To re-establish his finances and regain his wealth, he turned to the black arts. Gilda Ray started associating with sorcerers and engaging in rituals. These rituals typically involved sacrificing humans and dismembering children to summon the devil. His goal was to strike a deal with Satan, or really with any demonic force that would listen, to make him rich again. But in the end, Gilda Ray was just a sick murderer who wound up hanged 5 days before Halloween. His official number of victims is 150, but some historians say it could be up to 600. What would the devil have to offer you in order for you to give up your soul? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Remember...
Okay. Yeah, so I think huyo mtoto alikuwa na serious mental issues mostly, and yeah, that's the end of the video. And like vile nimesema before, firstly believe in such stories, but yeah, I think they were just either walikuwa misunderstood ama kaa huyu walikuwa na mental issues. It was just a sick, evil person. So you could blame it on the devil is just like scapegoat tu. Watu hutumia kufanya like horrific things ama in terms of music and vitu hizo ni watu wezi elewa, hawataki kuunderstand hadi kuna watu wanakuanga more talented and more successful, so wana jaribu ku-associate na some sort of witchcraft and sorcery pahali, lakini you never know. And kama umefika this far, thank you for watching, and I upload daily, so see you in the next video.